I've been introducing a lot of firmware hacking lately. I've explained CHDK as well as Rockbox in previous segments. Today I want to do DVD player region unlocking. Now, we've done some stuff with region unlocking on other devices in a certain way, like, with the Wii and other game consoles. And I've explained that region control, it's really, it's just another form of electronic communism, a digital divide away from corporations to tell you what you can and can't do with your hardware. A perfect example is the iPod. I have BSoD, free to anyone can download it. But if you download the actual iPod version encoded with the Apple utilities, you have to pay for a licensing fee. So you're telling me that the video that I created for the public for free, I have to pay to watch my own fucking video? Who the hell are you to tell me what I can and can't do with my hardware? When the hell did hardware start controlling us? When did software start controlling us? Why aren't we controlling our technology? And that's really why I'm getting into all of this firmware hacking stuff, so you can regain control of your technology. Whether it breaks a law, I don't know. I don't care. The bottom line is, this entire corporate Gestapo crap of who can tell us what we can and can't do with the products that we own. Have you actually read the license agreement to Microsoft Windows Vista? I mean, really. Never in my life did I ever read a license agreement that I couldn't pretend to agree to, and it gave me the screaming shits. So, on to point of DVD region unlocking. Now, this is actually going to showcase a wonderful example of corporations fucking themselves in the ass. We're going to use their own tools against them. Now, I have a copy of Revolution OS. If you don't have it, this is a 2-disc special edition of Revolution OS. It's an actual documentary about the Linux operating system, how it came to birth, open source movement, whole 9 yards. This is an unencrypted DVD. It's Region 0. I'll put up in the top of the corner the different regions. We have Region 1, Region 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., etc. Region 0 means there's no region. Why do corporations put region control on DVD players? Well, let's say I lived in the UK, and a movie is out in America first. That means America can make their profits, and then they can go out to the UK, or Australia, or vice versa, or whatever. So you're telling me that I currently live in America, and if I go move out to the UK, I have to rebuy my entire DVD collection because it's a different region. That is bullshit. Now, I could rip them all and re-encode the regions, but you know what? That's a crime. That's Digital Millennium Copyright Act and copyright infringement and breaking encryption, all that bullshit. Fuck you. No. So you know what? We're going to go to the DVD player, and we're going to tell the DVD player to ignore regions. Now, instead of actually making a DVD player where each DVD player is specific for each region, they make for the most part, every DVD player compatible with all regions. It's just a firmware setting. You have to get in there, and all you need is the remote control to the DVD player. So you know what? Let's go and start up the DVD player real quick. And right now I've got a Philips, let me get the cord going. Right now I've got a Philips DVP 5990. Okay, now you can actually go to a very wonderful website. It is videohelp.com/DVD hacks. I'll put up a little footer up. Okay. And I searched for the Philips DVP 5992. And these are the instructions it said. Alright, so first we hit Setup. We'll go to the Preferences tab. Alright. Then it says press 1, 3, 8, 9, 3, 1. Hey look, region code. Region code 0. Come on, you. 0. No, not 2. 0, 0, 0. Yay. Region code 0. Now I just hit menu to exit. Where the hell's menu on this remote? There we go. Come on, you. This remote control sucks. There we go. Now, this current DVD player will allow me to play Revolution OS. Now, if you have any home movies that for some reason wouldn't play, and you thought, oh, maybe my media is bad, or maybe my player can't read CD and DVD-Rs. No, it's bullshit. It's just region locked. It won't let you play region 0. All of your home movies aren't region or have no region to it. You know what? I've got one more DVD player. Let me just reset up real quick, and we'll go through another one real quick. Okay, now I've also got a portable DVD player. You've seen this on the show a few times. This is actually a Zenith DVP, DVP 615. Okay, now the instructions say turn on the player with no disc in the drive, wait for it to say no disc, press pause on the remote. Now where the hell's pause? I haven't used this in a while. Now we're going to hit pause and enter 314, 159, 159. Hey, region management test mode. Current EEPROM region code 0. Well, I've already set this one, of course. Now, it says enter 0 on the remote for all regions. 1 for region 1, 1 for... So if I wanted region 1 or region 2, region 0, I want region 0. Now, doing this will allow me to, in this instance, power the player is press pause on the remote to accept. And then it says to restart the player. And that's about it. This is a perfect example of actually using an OEM's tools against them to get your device to do what you want it to do. No more of this, we're only going to let you do what we're going to tell you to do unless you pay us. Now, if you have any home movies that weren't working that you put onto DVDs, or you copied a couple of movies and you made them region-free and they're not playing in your cheap $30 DVD player, this will actually get them to life. Or should, as long as it can support the disk. But I mean, the point here is, we're using the OEM's tools against them to regain control of our hardware. And this is what firmware hacking and hardware hacking is all about. Expect more stuff like this in the future.
What do you think that is? Some type of alien communication? Maybe it's a sign of the coming apocalypse. We could soon have these tattooed on our foreheads. No. Perhaps it's a sign from a long-lost language. This could be a symbol for the letter bzzz. Actually, no. It's none of those things. This is called a QR code, and it's a type of two-dimensional barcode. You'll find these just about everywhere nowadays, from your standard UPC barcode on everyday household items to the lesser-known variety on UPS and FedEx packages. These codes are generally used for tracking, shipping, and indexing, but they can also be used for other purposes. Today, we're going to go over the basics of what will henceforth be known as glyph tagging, an advanced and unusual way to deliver information and messages. To start off, I'm going to go over a handful of different types of two-dimensional barcodes, as well as some programs to decode them, because without that, you have a bunch of meaningless crap on a piece of paper. You might as well just wipe your butt and stick it to the wall. I only have a Windows mobile device to work with, as usual, but there are applications available for other platforms. Fox and Mustang both have G1s, and they're able to decode and scan QR codes through... There's a bunch of different programs out there, but the ones that they use are BTag and ScanLife, I believe. I'll mention those in the show notes, but I haven't had much chance to use them. After that, I'm going to go over the computer side and show you how to create your own glyph tags. Then we're going to join Fox in the city, and he's going to show you some good strategic locations to place them. I'm going to introduce you to my friend, and we're going to get started. I'd now like to introduce you to my quiet and faithful helping hand, Richard. Say hello, Richard. Good day to you all. I'd just like to say how much of an honor this is, and I'm so happy to be here, and Richard. Sorry. Richard's going to take each of the codes and put them on the background, and then scan them with my phone as I explain them. Isn't that right, Richard? That's correct. Alright, get the first code. Which one? The one that looks like a code. Oh, that's... Alright. This is a data matrix code. It looks very similar to a QR code, but it's different. Oh, Richard. Richard, get the phone! Oh, sorry. First off, he's going to be showing you Enigma. Put it in your mouth. I didn't want to put that in my mouth. Put it in your mouth! Now, once it loads up, it's really just a matter of getting the camera in focus with it. And it makes an obnoxiously loud sound, and there you go. This is a data matrix code. Not very difficult. Alright, get the next one. Alright, next he's going to show you a QR code, which you've seen already. Oh, get the phone. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm doing this. Here we are. There you go. This is a QR code. Put it down. Get the other one. Son of a bitch! Now get the phone. I don't know where it is. Just here. Alright. Now he's going to start up QuickMark. And this is a QuickMark code. Obviously, it says this is a QuickMark code. Alright, you're done. Go away. But I didn't want to. Just go away. Dude, you treat me like crap. I'm leaving you. Alright. So now that you've seen the basic types of data matrix codes, we're going to go on to how to use them. Going over the computer side. That was completely out of hand. You treated me like crap. I'm not taking this anymore. I'm leaving. Richard, will you shut up? I'm on the computer trying to record a sec... okay, this is qrcode.kawa.com. That's kawa.com. As you can see, it's just a simple QR code generator. You can put in a URL, text, phone number, SMS, whatever. So we're just going to put in some text, and then choose the size, and just click generate. That's it. There's a QR code. Same goes for data matrix codes, only the URL is datamatrix.kawa.com. And same layout and everything, only different. It generates a different type of code. There you go. So that's data matrix. To create a actual QuickMark code, the proprietary one, you have to go to the QuickMark website, which is quickmark.cn, I believe. Okay, this is the QuickMark website, and to generate one of their proprietary codes, you go to QuickMark DIY. And the first option it gives you is to put in a URL, so we'll just do the BSoD URL. And there it is. That's the actual code there. And there's a bunch of different options for downloading it and such. It gives you the option to download it, obviously. Now what I like about their site is that you can actually choose different options here. You can, phone call, SMS. It just gives you a lot of different options. You can even do geographical coordinates. It's nice. You can just put it right in. It is their proprietary format, so you need to use QuickMark with it, but, when it comes down to it, you're just putting text into the code. So we're going to go over to Fox now, and he's out in the field, and he's going to show us some different locations and good spots to put them. Richard, what the crap are you doing? Put the knife down. I'm going to...
Alright, now, whenever you decide to go out and do any kind of glyph tagging, I'm in an urban environment, so the codes need to be of a relatively decent size and visible. This is actually the reader to my bank, and I've got a nice size QR code. All of my codes have actually been sitting out for about 6 months. I really didn't do much of a job putting them there. I just kind of slapped them on. Now, right now I'm using BTag for the G1. Now, if you make these codes too big or too small, the application will have a hard time reading them. As you can see, the G1 is actually having a really hard time with this. So this code is actually containing too much information. Now there are other applications that work a bit better. Let me get out the, oh hey, look at that. It did work. Go to web. You picking that up? Alright, let's try that. Yep, and brings up website. Or should. Server application. Well, point being is, location, location, location. That code's actually been there for about 6 months, like I've mentioned. All of my QR codes that I put in the area before we even recorded this segment, I was doing some experiments, have been put up 6 months ago. Now, I actually tried to put one right here. You can still see the remnants of all the sticker and whatnot. This was ripped down in about 48 hours. So, yeah, it's kind of funny that I put a QR code that has a very horrible remark, if you actually can decode it, right next to the card reader of my bank, and it's been there, but I put one right next to a payphone, ripped down in 24 hours. Let's go to a couple more QR codes that I put up in the area. Alright, another location. This is actually a bad job. This QR code is too small and it's up too high. Now, granted, it's in a nice location where no one will actually notice to rip it down, but because of its size, it's really hard to read unless you can actually get your scanner way up high, and it's just really hard to get it to focus in and work. Yeah. As you notice, this was just a really stupid idea on my part, but again, this is still in beta. Getting the right location where to put your codes is really the art to this. Now, I'll show you another location. I decided to put up a QR code that was actually ripped down in less than an hour. Wait till the ambulance goes by. Okay, now I actually had a QR code right here. It was ripped down in an hour. Yeah. Not a good idea. Mailboxes, fuck them. Next location. Alright, most places that you normally see some kind of advertising or flyers or whatnot are typically a bad idea. Primarily because people are going to go and put their flyers over your QR codes. If you put them nice and low down to the ground down here, they typically don't get removed. People don't even notice them. But you know what? We need to have like some kind of official place that we should put default glyph tags. So let's go to the next location where I have a couple more tags up, and we'll see how well those worked out over time. Okay, I gotta do this one quick because I got people coming. I'm currently standing in front of a cable TV distribution box. This is also for cable ISPs. Now, I've got a little QR code down here. It's a little bit warped because it wasn't protected properly. I'm having a hard time, you know, the G1 actually decoded it as, take a fucking picture, it'll last longer. iNigma on my wing has a bit of a problem, primarily because it's a crappy camera. So really, your device determines how well you can actually pick up QR codes. But putting things on utility boxes would be a good idea, mainly because it's utility boxes. Granted, it's full of graffiti and all that junk. People just pass it and they really don't put advertising on it. They don't put anything else on it besides just graffiti. And no one's really done anything to this tag besides weather itself. Let's go to one more location, which actually was a pretty stupid idea on my part. Let's go. Alright, I figured 2 locations for unofficial or official locations for any kind of glyph tagging should be utility boxes or street signs. Primarily because they're rarely vandalized. I've actually got a QR code all the way up there. I'm a total idiot because I actually have to climb the pole to put it up there, and it's way too small. There's absolutely no way to read it. So learn from my mistakes, people. Now, the whole idea behind glyph tagging is so you can actually put any kind of information in your environment in plain sight, and only people available to this information will be able to actually decode it. And it's a really good idea. I mean, right over here I can actually put war chalking symbols on the ground, but they'll wash away. So in this case, I can go and put a glyph code anywhere containing any kind of information. GPS coordinates, applicable for geocaching, applicable for war driving, or even if you just want to tell someone there's a really great place for beers and burgers on a Friday night. So, glyph tagging. The only catch-22 is how are you going to have a mobile printing setup? Now, maybe some clever coders for the G1 or Windows Mobile can actually create something where you can actually save the code, or you can just save the information, you bring it home, print it out, and put it someplace else. It's all really a matter of how creative are you. So, glyph tagging. Get into it, fuckers.
Well, if you've been on the IRC server, I'm sure you've heard me talking about my T-Mobile G1 cell phone. I'm really impressed with it. It's a great cell phone. So today I figured I'd do a segment explaining the advantages and the disadvantages of the Android operating system. The Android operating system, in my opinion, is extremely stable, especially for how young it is. Some people still consider it a beta. I've had great luck with it. I think part of the stability is the fact that each application on it runs in its own virtual machine. So if one application crashes, it doesn't affect the rest of them. Unlike with Windows mobile smartphones, I've had some Windows mobile smartphones, and you'll have one application crash and the whole phone crashes. Not only does the phone crash, the dialer crashes, and you don't even know. You have it running in your pocket and your phone's locked up, and now you're not receiving phone calls. I personally have never had that problem with my G1. It's worked flawless for me. I'm really impressed. For $180 smartphone, you really can't beat the price, and it's really got top-end technology in it. The potentials for the Android, it can be run on both powerful phones like the G1, or it can be scaled back onto cheaper phones, probably something that you can get free or maybe for $20 or $50. Eventually in the future, it's going to be available on more phones. From what I heard, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I heard that Asus is supposed to be making some kind of deal with Android, and they're thinking about actually putting it onto netbooks, or possibly even having it embedded in motherboards on the, I think it's called System on Chip, or I forget what it's called, but you know where they have the a small Linux operating system right on your motherboard for low power use and instant boot up. So that would be kind of cool. It'll be nice to see what eventually it comes out in the future. That's one of the reasons why I jumped on it so quick, because I like being at the forefront of technology. Yeah, there's problems. You have to deal with the problems, and when you jump on things too quick, because it's kind of nice to wait until it's out for a while and let everybody else deal with the problems. But where's the fun in that, right? So why should I use the Android operating system, or should I say a phone running Android? Well, there's a ton of applications out already. Like I said, it hasn't even been released for long, and there's hundreds of applications out. Some of them are good, a lot of them are bad, but the fun is sorting through them and seeing what you like. And if you don't like anything out there, well, learn how to code and start writing your own. It's an open source phone. Why not take advantage of it? Why would I not want to use the Android operating system or an Android phone? Well, if you're looking for something flashy and everything works out of the box, go and get an iPhone. The advantage to having a G1, or should I say to using Android, is you get to play with new technology. It's not all finished. Some of it's flaky, some of it runs good, but that's the fun in testing stuff, playing with it. Come on, we're hackers. That's what we do. We take shit apart. We usually fuck it up, and by the time we're done with it, we make it better. Another thing, I'm not sure with future phones, but I know with the G1, the battery life sucks. It's a trade-off, you know. You got a lot of power in this thing. Of course, the battery life's going to suck. I have a little USB battery pack that I can plug into it if I need, if I'm going on long distances. They do make an extended battery already. I'm not sure how well it works. It's not that much bigger than the standard battery. I'm waiting for more batteries to come out, and hopefully the phone will last a lot longer. Like I said, the Android operating system it's the first open source phone on the market. Hopefully there's a lot more to follow. But what's nice is anybody can code for it. There should be a lot of more applications coming out for it. And what's kind of cool is how the payment system works when you buy applications. Google actually doesn't take anything. 70% of what you pay for the application goes right to the developer, and then 30% goes to the cell provider that you use. So that's going to encourage cell providers like T-Mobile, for example, to sell really good phones like the G1 a lot cheaper, because they're going to be pulling in 30% of the profits of all the apps that you download. And with the developers getting 70%, that's going to encourage developers to start writing better apps, and hopefully a lot less applications like iFarty and stuff like that that make your phone fart. That, so far, that's mainly been what's out since the market's only been free. So like I was saying, there's been a lot of bad applications out. There's been a couple of good ones, but there's a lot of junk to sift through. What I do is every night when I'm sitting down and settling down at night, I'll fire up my phone, jump on the market, and look at the new applications, try a couple new out every night and stay on top of it. But if you just got the phone, there's a lot to go through. So I'm going to try and go through some of the decent applications, point out some of the good ones. Maybe I'll point out some of the bad ones and show the advantages and disadvantages of different applications on the phone. So I'm going to jump over. I'm going to try and do screen captures on the computer so you can see, but some applications take advantage of hardware that just can't be emulated on the computer, so you got to deal with crappy video of me holding my phone up to this screen. So we'll cut over to that video now. Update is a useful app, especially for the Android phone, considering most of the applications for the phone are in beta and probably will indefinitely be in beta. So there's constantly updates for everything on your phone. So Update's simple. Just install it to your phone, and once you open it up, it'll scan through all the files, or I'm sorry, all the programs on your phone. And as you can see on this screen, there's a list of programs, and if you see the little blue arrow here, it means that there's an update available for that program. Just click on the program and it'll check for a new version, and it should download and install the new version for you. The next application I'm going to show is called APK Installer. It's a pretty good application to have. When you download the Android applications, they come in what's called an APK file. You can back these up and save them, which has actually helped me out because I downloaded a lot of files back when the market was only free, and now that they can charge, I get a lot of applications that really aren't worth paying for that I got for free that now they charge for, that had backed up, so I can reinstall them if I want to. It's a pretty simple app. You just open it up and it goes to the root of your SD card where you have the apt files stored at. Unfortunately, I don't have an SD card emulated. I didn't feel like going through the whole process, so I can't show you exactly how it works. But you can see the program. You just select the files off of your SD card and click them one by one, and it'll install the applications back onto your phone. The only real flaw that I have with my Android phone so far is the power issues. The battery just doesn't last too long. I'm not sure if that's going to be just related to the G1 or if that's going to be an issue on most Android phones. But I know the G1 seriously has major battery problems. So I'm going to show you this program called Power Manager. It's another simple to use like every other program on the phone, but you can set different profiles for what you're doing. For example, if you're in your house, there's no reason to have the GPS turned on, so it'll turn off the GPS. If you're on a train or underground, stuff like that, you can have your GPS turned off. If you're out on the road, there's no need to have the Wi-Fi on. You can set it. I have it so that when my phone's plugged into the charger, my backlight stays on the whole time. You can set different brightness levels for different scenarios and stuff. You can poke around in the program, but if you look at the screen, there's different profiles. You got battery powered, low powered, AC powered, computer powered, and browsing mode. So for example, when your battery goes below 40%, you can have it start shutting shit down, and just make it turn basically into a basic phone so you have it for emergency uses. Poke around with this program, try it, see what you like, and let us know what you think. G1 Central is a nice little application. It's basically a client for the Grand Central service. I'm sure you've all heard of Grand Central. If not, Google it, you'll find out. I find it handy because I'm a T-Mobile customer and I have the Fab 5 service on my phone. So what I did is I programmed in my Grand Central phone number on my Fab 5, and now I have free outgoing calls whenever I want. It's pretty simple to use. The first thing you want to do is open up the application and hit the menu button and go to settings, and there you punch in all your Grand Central account information. I'm not going to do it because I don't feel like hiding all my account information and editing it out, but you can figure it out. Once that's done, just go back to the main screen here and type in whatever phone number you want to call. Once you do that, hit the green call button on your phone and it'll log on to your account and it'll start trying to connect the call. This could take a minute or so. And there it goes. If you see there, Grand Central's calling my phone. Just hit the call button to answer.
Welcome to National Directory Assistance.
And it's connecting the call. Just hit the hang up button and it disconnects. Now if you see over here on the emulator screen, sometimes the calling dialog hangs a little bit. Just hit the back button to get rid of that. And, oh yeah, there's a contacts tab here. Basically what that does is it imports all the contacts from your phone so that you can call them now in Grand Central. Makes it easy when you're trying to dial or whatever driving. There's also a mail tab here, so all your voicemail in your Grand Central box, this isn't your phone voicemail, but in your actual Grand Central voicemail is listed in there. You can click on any voicemail message and it'll download it to the SD card in your phone, and you can play back anytime you want. Or you can save it, transfer it to the computer, whatever you want to do. But I find this to be a handy little application. I use it a lot, and hopefully you guys do too. Another flaw I've discovered with Android-based phones is, for some reason, out of the box, you can't use MP3s as ringers. I'm not sure why, but I found a solution. There's a program called Ringdroid. Let me bring the phone up here so you can see. It crashes the emulator, so I can't show you it on the emulator, so bring it up. Ringdroid. Right here. It browses through all the MP3 files on your phone. Just select the file that you want and click the save button, and you can save it as a ringtone or an alarm or whatever, or a notification, whatever you want. But I found it useful. Give it a try. This next application is called BTag. It's a QR code reader. It reads QR codes and other kinds of data matrix codes. If you don't know what they are, look it up on Wikipedia. Some fun stuff to mess with. I think we did a segment, I'm not sure if it's been released yet or not, on QR codes. I'm too lazy to print one out, so I got it on my laptop here, so I'll show you how it works. Load up the BTag program on your phone, and it'll open up your camera, as hopefully you can see on here. Now you just scan the QR code, hold it up to a QR code. Takes a second, and if you can see there, it shows you that the QR code is a link to our website, and you can click the box to go to the website, and it opens up on the phone. Eventually, I'm only on a 2G network here. I can't get 3G, so it takes a while, but as you see, yeah, there it goes. It opens up the BSoD website. So that's a neat little application to have on your phone.
Alright, by now, quite a few of you have gotten bitten by the ham radio bug. And the one thing that's keeping a lot of people from getting involved in amateur radio in general is the price. People don't want to go ahead and spend $3, $4, $5, up to $600, even up to $1,000 to get into a hobby to find out in the long run that it's not going to be something that they're going to enjoy. But that doesn't mean you have to not get into it. Today we're going to get into modding FRS radios. Now a lot of the hardcore, die-hard amateur radio guys are going to piss and moan about this, but the way I see FRS or PMR radio for Europe, which are the simple two-way radios, I've showcased these on the show before. Now they're going to piss and moan, oh, this is like the instant messenger MySpace Facebook of radio. This is where all the flamers and all. You know what? The bottom line is it's a radio. You know, if you give people the tools to become an asshole, they will be an asshole. Yeah, there are a lot of assholes on the FRS and PMR bands, but you know what? If it's just you and a couple of friends playing around with antenna designs and just different operating modes, that's great. I'd rather experiment on this rinky-dink $15 radio, rather blow out my $250 handheld. Now, these radios do operate very close to the 70 centimeter band of amateur radio, which is in the 440, 450 megahertz range. I'm not going to get too specific. These operate 460, 470, 480, depending on what region you're in, so look up the frequencies. But reason being is because PMR and FRS radios are so close to the amateur radio 70 centimeter band, I'm going to get into a bunch of antenna designs later on, which will also be applicable for FRS radio, and I'll actually show how to design the antenna dimensions for both amateur radio as well as FRS, so you guys can get started into the wireless wilderness. The first thing we're going to need is a radio with an antenna jack. Unfortunately, if you want a PMR or an FRS radio that has an antenna jack, you're going to be paying quite a bit of money for it. And as technophiles, we're not going to go and settle for that. So in this segment, we're going to go ahead and modify two different radios with two different RF jacks, much similar to what we've been doing with the Wi-Fi. But being that this is a lower frequency, it's a lot more forgiving for mistakes. So let's readjust the camera. We'll go to the table side and get started. There is going to be quite a bit of improv in this segment, so take what you've been learning from the show, from past seasons and episodes, to heart when doing this. These are the two most typical sized radios. Now this radio actually has a coil antenna, which we'll get to in a minute, and this one is quite literally just a piece of wire. Now we're going to need some kind of RF connector that'll be able to handle the 70 centimeter or 450 to 480 megahertz frequencies. Now, I have a chassis or panel mount BNC connector. I'll put a picture up. And I've got a standard polarity, not reverse polarity, SMA. Now, this is actually a really easy mod to do, especially when you have a smaller radio. We're going to put this into this one. We're going to put the BNC into the larger radio. But if you notice, both of these connectors, much like a lot of the ones that we've worked with Wi-Fi, in fact, if you weren't told, this looked exactly like the Wi-Fi ones that we've been working with in the past. They've got these little nuts and washers on them that allow us to mount it into your device. Now, the one thing I like about this is actually a GPS cable. This goes from an MCX to a standard polarity or just a regular SMA jack. You can buy these things off eBay pretty cheap. It's kind of hard to find panel mount female BNC jacks, so you might actually just be stuck buying one of these cables and then sacrificing. You'll probably just cut it about there and splice it in. This would be the easiest solution if you really wanted to do this. Like I said, they're really easy to get, and they come pre-crimped onto the coax. Now, as always, if you're using coax, you're going to have to use something rated for the frequencies that you're in. LMR 195 that we have been using for Wi-Fi is more than enough. However, it does get a little inflexible. It's kind of rigid. This is actually RG 174. Now, if you have leftover RF jacks from your Wi-Fi experiments, they will also work. Just compensate for what components you have in your area. Alright, so basic tools and plow. We're going to need a soldering iron, basic cutting and fabrication tools because we're going to have to chip away some plastic and cut some plastic away. We got the multimeter just in case the tester shorts. We got a fuse, and I got a hot glue gun here. I would really recommend epoxy putty, or even Gorilla Glue. But just for the first time's sake, so you can get used to what you're doing, hot glue can be removed easily if you make any mistakes. Once you know your design works, go on to something a little bit more permanent. And of course, we've got a utility knife because we're going to have to do some cutting. All right, I'm going to clear the table off, and I'm actually going to start on this one. This is actually a Motorola Talkabout T5320 radio. This one is just a cheap-ass off-brand Maxis GRMS radio. Both of these radios only have about a 1/4 watt power output. That's pretty much standard. Some radios say they can go up to an 8-mile range, but I really wouldn't hold my breath on that. Some radios can go up to a 1/2 watt. I don't care how many features or how much you pay for a radio. The most important thing about your radio is the antenna and the power output. So these have shitty antennas, they have shitty power output. Let's get some better antennas on these so they're not as shitty. I've gone ahead and removed all of the screws from the radio, and as you notice, it just comes in half like so. Here's our antenna. The antenna mounts to this small little trace right here, this copper pad on the PCB. this is your signal. The reason I know this is because when the antenna is in place, it quite literally gets screwed down into this area like so. Now if we take a look at this antenna, it's nothing more than a coil of wire. Of course, not the most ideal thing, but later on we're going to have to replicate or modify this so we actually have an antenna on this thing. Now we need to go and find a ground point. Now the reason I decided to go with the BNC connector, let me take off this nut and washer and I'll show you why. Now we are going to need a little bit of wire and we're going to have to go and manipulate this a little bit, but not by much. If you notice that the BNC connector fits in almost as if it was designed to, but it goes down a little too far. We need this signal wire here. We can run a small amount of everyday Joe Schmo wire and connect that, and the shield needs to find another common ground point. So if we take the multimeter and we test for continuity, as always, radio circuits have a tendency of using a common ground, and we're just going to test for continuity. So let's see, negative pad, there's a negative pad there, that's not a negative pad, that's not negative, that's not negative, there's a negative. Well, if we know that this is a negative ground right there, we could probably take our shield, which has, let me see if I can get a nice good shot of it. It's got this tab right here. We can take that tab and solder it to the ground point right here. So we have our signal and ground. So we're going to fire up the iron and we're going to get that soldered in place. But as soon as you try to put the radio together, you'll notice that it's got this plastic tab right here. This is where the antenna used to go. This tab is going to get in the way. So we're going to have to use our fabrication tools. In this case, I'm just going to use a pair of wire cutters and maybe even go through with the Dremel. If I can, I'll just use the razor blade, but we got to get this post out of the way. Now what's bad about this is once we get rid of this post, we're actually doing structural damage to this. This screw holds the radio together. So we need to make sure that we don't destroy this to the point where the radio will fall apart. And we might actually have to compensate later on to make sure that there is no looseness to this, because you don't want to put too much stress on your RF point and it break off. So let me cut frame, get rid of that post, fire up the soldering iron and get to work on this. I've already gone ahead, taken a small length of the RG174 from that cable I explained earlier. Now you could use plain wire, typical 20 gauge copper wire, but I'd highly recommend trying to stick with coax. Now pre-tin the wires. Now I'm going to pre-tin the actual pads on the board. Let me make sure I'm on camera with this. Got one here. And we got one here now. I'm doing this inside the case, which is a really stupid idea because the heat will probably start melting plastic. So you got to be careful for that. Now am I on frame here? Okay. So we're going to tack the signal to the signal, much like many of our Wi-Fi cards and Bluetooth cards we've modded. And we're going to tack the shield to the shield, just like so. There we go. Now, this coax is going to have to lead into the BNC connector. And the BNC connector actually has a solder cup, which will lead in a certain amount. Now, I've trimmed this a bit long, just for this sake of you can't cut something to be longer. And this should fit inside the solder cup. Sorry if I'm getting a shitty angle on this, but it's really hard to do this on frame. Where am I on frame? There I am. Alright, so there's the solder cup. That's just being held in by gravity right now. I'm going to go ahead and feed some solder in. You've got to be careful not to use too much heat, because it's just like with the Wi-Fi mods. The dielectric material, this plastic on the center conductor, doesn't like to be very hot. Now we're going to just take this, and there's a little tab on the actual connector itself right here. I want to pre-tin that real quick. Try to bend this around so I can get it on frame. Am I on frame? Yeah, I'm a little high. There we go. Now this will be a little bit harder to tin because there's a lot more metal to it, but once you get a nice piece of solder on there, I'm just going to kind of hoax everything into place. I didn't bring any of my decent precision tools, so I'm just going to do this by hand. There we go. Now, this RF connector is soldered on. I'm just going to loop it around. And if you notice, I have this nut set down kind of far on the collar of the actual BNC connector. Reason being is we don't want the BNC connector to push in too far. Now you got to remember, you do not want any of your signals and ground leads short-circuiting. That'd be really, really bad. Now at this point, I would just slather a whole bunch of hot glue in here. I'll do that off camera. We'll reassemble it. But even before you even go to the hot glue method, where's my multimeter? Make sure you don't have your signal and your shield shorted. So here's our shield, here's our signal. If it beeps, we're fucked. Alright, it doesn't beep. That works, which means we have signal to signals working and shield to shield working. Now this is a really sloppy mod, but being that it's such a low frequency and the wavelength is a lot bigger than 2.4 gigahertz, this sloppy seconds job will work just fine. I'm going to cut frame, going to slather some hot glue in here, put it all together, and we'll get to the next radio. There we go. All nice and modded. We got a huge heaping slathering of hot glue around here. Like I said, typically I wouldn't use hot glue, but if you're a beginner and you don't really know what you're doing, hot glue is removable, epoxy isn't. I'm going to go ahead and put this thing back together screw by screw. One thing that really should be done though is putting another ring of hot glue or even epoxy putty around the edge of this so it adds some strain relief. Because remember, if you're going to be putting antennas on here, you're going to have coax or larger antennas that could put a bit of stress on this, and you don't want the hot glue to eventually weaken up and break off. So I'm going to get to putting this one back together and finish it up. It's not the prettiest mod in the world, but it works. It works really well. Not really much more I can say about this. Now you can go and design whatever antenna you want. You can hook any kind of coax into this using a BNC connector, or if you go and get a BNC connectors are often used for AV equipment, high-end AV equipment. You can get expanding Gorilla Glue and some kind of metal. This is actually a street sweeper bristle that I coated in black nail polish so it wouldn't get all rusty and disgusting to hell. Solder the metal wire of whatever the hell you can get at whatever wavelength that you're using. Let's say if you're using 467 megahertz, you'd cut this to a multiple wavelength, either quarter, half, three-quarter, or full wave. I like using 1/4 just because it's not as big. You lock it into your radio, there you go. Now you have a radio that has an antenna that doesn't suck. And if you want to go directional, you can go directional. Now, let's go to the smaller one. Alright, as you can see, this radio is a whole lot smaller. This is the antenna that I pulled out of the last radio. Here's the antenna that's in this one. As you can see, it's a lot smaller, which means it's going to get quite a bit less range. Now, using common sense, we can actually see where the antenna leads into. There's a very small, thin pad. We need to find a ground point. So again, using our continuity tester, we're going to go to the negative lead on, let me switch my leads here. We're going to go to a negative lead on the battery pack, since we know radios use common ground, so this crystal should. No, what about this RF box? Yep, this little box right here has ground. There are also these little tabs right here. I don't know if you can see it really well. You see that little tab that's bent to the side? That's actually used for holding the LCD in place. We can use that. There's another one here that should work. And where's the connector? We're going to use this really, really small SMA connector with some RG174. And what I'm planning on doing is trying to get this as close to the base as possible. But if you notice that the heat shrink of this, well, how am I going to solder to it? It's heat shrunk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cable, loop it back around to the points, and make a really big U-turn like that. Cut off some of this plastic where the antenna goes, where antenna would be, and then use the mounting hardware that came with this to affix it. So let's start soldering. I've gone ahead and removed this little rinky-dink piece of crap antenna, and if you notice, I've cut a nice chunk of the original antenna housing off, so I can actually put the SMA connector in like so. Here we go. Yay, on frame. Now I've also spliced back some of the coax. I haven't pre-tinned it yet. Now the soldering is kind of small, so I'm going to do that off frame, but there's a very small point on the board where we pulled the original antenna off that this is going to go through hole, and there's a small little tab. Let me go to my multimeter probes and zoom in real quick. There we go, that's much better. Alright, now if you notice right here, this is actually the signal lead right there. It's a through hole, so I'm going to route the wire through there, and this little tab right here, right next to it, is a ground point. Also, this box right here is a ground point. And you see there's 3 little holes here, also ground points, also ground points. I've confirmed this with my continuity meter, a continuity tester on my multimeter. Now, because this is so small, I'm not going to bother try doing this on frame because it's a real pain in the ass. I'm going to go ahead and solder this in, and we're going to go to the next step to this mod. There we go, mod complete. I'm just going to reframe, finish putting together, a little bit of hot glue. Of course, as always, I'd recommend epoxy or epoxy putty, but if you're new to these sorts of mods and whatnot, hot glue is a very highly recommended suggestion by me because if you do make any mistakes or anything does break, you can repair it. There we go. Here's the finished mod. Honestly, didn't use any hot glue inside whatsoever. Now, you might actually have to go inside, if you notice this is kind of splitting open a little bit, you might have to go inside with some hand tools or Dremel accessories to sand down the insides a bit, but pretty much, here it is. I'll zoom out, reframe up, and I'll show you what it looks like with some antennas on it. Alright, that didn't take very long, and the mods are relatively easy. I didn't mention, however, I did not use my Dremel whatsoever for any of the modifications. When modding this radio, I just used a pair of wire cutters to re-engineer the inside and the internals of the radio for the BNC connector to fit. Now, BNC connectors, if I haven't already stated, are very easy to obtain, and they're often used in high-end audio-video equipment. They're very inexpensive. Now, if you get a BNC connector, you can go and get something called Gorilla Glue or expanding AB foam, and you can get some kind of metal of any sort and just design your antenna that is a variable wavelength, like a half wave, quarter wave, third wave, full wave. This antenna on here just so happens to, I think it's half wave for this frequency. Now, this one over here, this tiny little blue radio, this is actually an off-brand piece of crap. I do still need to do a few little minor adjustments to it to get the connector in. I didn't hot glue it in. To cut the actual stub piece off that used to house the old antenna, I just used a coping saw and chopped it off. This is housing a standard SMA jack. Again, they're very easy to obtain. They're standard amateur radio supply shops will have them. You can go online. I actually do offer supplies for both Wi-Fi and ham radio if you guys need. I dropped a whole bunch of money that I don't have to buy a whole bunch of supplies so you guys can get what you need. If you want to mod your radio and you want to get into amateur radio and ham radio in general and you want to do this mod and you need help, feel free to contact me through the forums. IRC would be better. Please don't email me directly because it's a community-based show. If you email me directly, I can only help you, and the next person that has that same question that you just asked, I have to help again. So if you have any questions or comments, bring it to the forums or come on IRC. I'm not the only person that knows about this stuff. There are a bunch of hams in IRC already, and even more people that are into radio. So, any questions or comments, go to the forums, show notes. I'll put a bunch of links up so you have some understanding about this stuff, and hopefully this sparks your interest in getting into amateur radio in general. In later segments, I will be doing antenna design, both applicable for ham radio in the 70 centimeter band, amongst others, as well as FRS and PMR. So stay tuned.